What's up YouTubers, Johnny DIY here. Today I'm going to be showing you guys the reasons why your Toyota Tundra may be leaking water into the cab, the front of the cab or the rear of the cab. If you guys are new to my channel, please do me a favor, click the subscribe and notification bell so you can get all my new videos. Alright, let's get to this one. Okay, so I'm talking about the first generation Tundra. That's the years 2000 to 2006. It's going to be for the access cab or the double cab. If I forget anything or you have any other helpful advice, go ahead and leave a comment down below for everyone. Oh, there's another fix we gotta do. If you know, you know. Okay, let's start with the front of the cab, reasons why you may have water in there. First one's an easy one. If you have a sunroof, go ahead and open it up and you're gonna have little drain holes. If those drain holes get clogged, it'll back up and it could get inside your cab. For that, what you're gonna wanna do is just canned compressed air or an air compressor and put it in the holes and blow out those tubing. Next is gonna be air conditioning backing up the condensation. You go ahead and check over here on your passenger side. There's a drain hole right here that the condensate will run out of. If that gets clogged up, it can back up, and that's the same thing as well. Just use the air compressor to blow that out. So you're gonna wanna feel the leaking substance. If you rub your fingers together and it feels a little oily, not like water, and you smell it, and it smells a little bit sweet, it's most likely coolant leaking from your car's heating system. So when you turn your heater on your car or your defroster, it runs through a heater core, which is like a small little radiator that's connected to your whole car's main radiator and cooling system. And it's located usually on the passenger side car up inside of your dash, and that can start to leak over time every time you put on your heater, and it'll usually leak right here on the floorboard. Now to fix that, what you can do is you can go ahead and add some UV leak dye to your car's cooling and radiator right here. Just pop this off and pour a little bit in, and then you go ahead and run the car and run the heat, and what that's going to do is circulate it, and you put a black light on it, and wherever it's leaking, it's going to glow really bright, so you'll be able to pinpoint where it's leaking. But most likely, to get to that heater core, you're either going to have to remove just some paneling and things underneath, or sometimes you have to remove the whole entire dash to get to that heater core. It's kind of a pain, but it's what you have to do. The next one is going to be underneath your cowl here. There's a big plastic cowl here. I'll show you guys how I took it off real quick. Take off these wiper arms so that I can take this cowl off. These little caps right here pop off the arms. Just a little plastic cap. Okay, now before we remove the wiper arms, I got a paint pen right here. I'm gonna go ahead and mark the wiper arm, and then I'm gonna mark underneath it. That way I have a reference for when I need to go and put these back on, because they can be a little tricky. So I can go ahead and unbolt this bolt right here on the wiper arm, 12 millimeter. And these are on little tiny splines right there. That's why I wanted to make those marks so it can go on a lot easier. Now we need to remove these little fasteners in the cowl. There's just a handful of them, but they're these little star drive Torx bits. Oh, there's more pieces I forgot. There's some more of these little clips we have to take off on the inside. These little trim, plastic trim tools come in handy for things like this. Holy cow. Push it up and out. Now give yourself a moment to clean up all the leaves and debris. And once you get that cowl off, there's these little plastic threaded inserts right here, and they have a gasket in here that dries up. But these two right here are over a little fresh air intake, and if these start to leak, they can drip into the fresh air intake for the heating and air conditioning system, and that'll drip on your passenger floorboard. I've already fixed these once before. I thought these were the problem again, but it's another thing I got going on. You can go ahead and just seal these as I did, or you can go ahead and order new clips with the gasket. I do recommend using sealant with the new ones because they just don't hold up over time. I'll try and put links down in the description to all the parts and supplies, like the part numbers for all these little Toyota parts. If I forget anything, let me know. Okay, the next thing is going to be the windshield itself. As you can see, I've already had it duct taped. I figured out my windshield was leaking right here on the corner. When these things get old, the seal just kind of dries out and shrinks, and then they start to leak. Now the best thing would be to have your windshield pulled and resealed, or get a new windshield if it has any chips or crack and get it resealed. But you can just spot seal where it's leaking. Duct tape off. You can see this channel is open right here. There's this rubber trim piece that fits in that groove, and you just pry that out and it pulls out. It's just kind of a press fit. It might have a tiny bit of glue, but then you're going to want to get a spray bottle like this and spray it all the way around to see where it's leaking, and then you can go ahead and seal it up with some windshield sealant or some high quality silicone sealant. Then you can jam this thing back in after you put the sealant in. And I do want to mention how the vehicle is parked, what angle it's at is going to make a big difference where it's actually leaking in the cab. So like this leak up here that I found, it was leaking down here and down the pillar and collecting all on the floor there. That's why I thought it was the same cowl problem again with those clips. But I just had to take off a couple trim pieces. You got to take off those grab handles, those two, those come out, and then take out a couple panels, and this one right here, just some Phillips. Now depending how it's parked, like I said, it could be dripping through the sunglass holder or your garage holder right here, which it is for me because of that seal on the windshield too. It could also be leaking on the driver's side floor. If it's leaking there, like I said, the windshield you're gonna wanna check, but you're also gonna wanna check this grommet right here that goes into the cab right here on the driver's side, and make sure that's not leaking. And if it is, just put some sealant on that too. Okay, now before we jump to the rear of the cab and I show you guys those problem areas, I have a leak back there as well at the same time. I want to talk about the windshield. This is a common area that rusts right here underneath that seal. You can gain little surface area rust. It's usually from when they pull the windshields out. They use this scraper tool to scrape all the glue, and it scratches up this inside edge down to bare metal, and that'll start to rust. Or it can just happen with rust over time as well. But let's go ahead and hit this little groove with some sandpaper, try and knock off all this surface rust, and then prime it with some rust sealer. So you'll probably notice the paint's a little bubbled if you have any areas that have grown beyond that little trim strip. I couldn't really see anything until I took that trim strip out, so be wary of that. If it's rusted all the way through, you're gonna need to do a little Bondo or patchwork, which isn't that big of a deal, as long as it hasn't spread too much. And to test the side of this windshield right here, you gotta take this little piece of trim off. So you just kind of peel back the weather stripping up here, and there's these little screw heads here, these Phillips heads. I think there's like 4 of them. Can't get it out with this hammer impact without breaking the windshield. Always a can of worms on these old trucks. That other one, the one I didn't film, came off like nothing. Yep. Okay, so that was a pain to get that last screw out. Now I thought these were going into the body, but these are actually little plastic insert clips again too that are replaceable. I'm not sure if when these leak around the edges, if that can get into the cab. Maybe someone else knows that can say, but I'll probably go ahead and put a little sealant around the edges of these as well, just because I'm in here and I really don't want to take this apart again. I'm going to be using this Worth rust guard. This is like POR 15 or any other rust encapsulator. I'll make sure I put a link down in the description to one of these little pints. Pint goes a long ways with these things, so you don't need to buy anything bigger because chances are it'll go bad before you use it, unless you're like doing your whole frame or something. Just gonna try and get it all the way down in that channel, this front edge. While that rust guard dries, now let's focus on the rear of the cab. I have some leaks down here in the corners behind the seats on both sides. Now that can be caused by a few different things. Even if we come up here, your third brake light right here, this can be cause of one of the leaks. There's a gasket behind this right here that starts to leak over time. Now you can get a replacement one of these. I'll put one down in the description for you guys. You can also put some sealant around that. This can also cause a leak all the way in the front of your cab, from here leaking all the way across or down the sides, depending what angle your car is parked at and such. So you want to check that. Right here where the roof channel comes down, there's kind of an indent in the body, and right there it kind of leaves a spot where it can leak on the seal on the back window, and that's where this is leaking on this side. Sprayed the spray bottle in right here and it's leaking down the back window and down the side like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and seal that. You could have the whole window pulled out and reseal that if you wanted, get a new seal for your glass. Probably gonna do both sides because just over time these seals kind of dry out. You're also gonna want to test if you have a sliding window, spray all around here and see if this is leaking at all. Same thing, you're gonna have to get a new seal for it. And there's a couple plugs in the bottom of each side and a vent I'm going to show you in a second, but first we got to take the rear seat out. Lift those up first. If you have a double cab, it might be a little different. And then underneath, I think we've got about 4 or so of these 12mm bolts we need to pull out. So yeah, there's just 4 bolts. Just lift up a little bit and the whole back seat should come out. Then we gotta remove this little insulation covers. They're just held in some of those Christmas tree pop clips. Okay, so there's one of these pressure vents on both sides. These just alleviate pressure when you close your doors, but these little top things just kind of pop off. They're just like a little cover to keep, I guess, stuff from falling in here. But these can start to leak around here. The gasket's actually on the outside, so to seal this correctly, you're gonna have to pull your bed to be able to push this out and put that new gasket in. You can try and seal around the inside with a good sealant, but you're gonna have to use quite a bit. Go liberally, just because the design of this, and you may have good luck. The other vent holes are down here, plug right here, and then there's one a little lower. I think you can see it. You can see these plugs right here. So there's one here and one there. You can get to both of these without having to pull the bed. You can just pop those out with a flat head and push the new ones in, put a little sealant around them just so they don't leak for sure. So I think on mine it's just the window leak on that side or the third brake light, but I wanted to pull the seat to make sure it wasn't these while I had it on my mind. Third brake light. See if we can't see anything coming down on the inside. Okay, well I can see it's leaking from the window, but I can't really pinpoint where. So if you go ahead and pop this little cover, it just hinges up on the seat belt. You can go ahead and take this off so we can move that trim panel. Pop this bottom kick plate off too. Okay, so if we look back here behind the trim panel, kind of hard to see, but there's a 10mm bolt on a stud here and another 10mm on a bolt stud here, and that's where the window actually bolts to that and it squishes on that seal. I went ahead and tightened both of those and it helped the leak a little bit, but surprisingly it looks like the leak is actually coming from in the side right here. So I could either pull the window and reseal it, or I may just run a tiny tight little bead around this, probably from the outside.
it away while it's still fresh. You get a pretty crisp line.
Okay, so it's been drying for a day, the windshield in the front and the back. Now we're gonna do a hose test with Mr. Mike. Now let's check this corner. Now we're gonna check out the bottom of the windshield first. Okay. Now, the fun part of putting everything back together again. These things have got hooks on the back that have got to go in these notches. There's 4 of them. Put that little cowl back in that goes underneath the windshield. This is always fun. These trim pieces along the windshield. Maybe put a little anti-seize on these because they seem to be getting rusty. I think because they're tucked in here and it gets moisture and trapped. Alright, now for the wiper blades, I'm going to put some of this anti-seize on the threads as well as those little tiny gears that the wipers actually fit into, because it was kind of seized on there when I took it off. It looked like there was a little corrosion. So this will make it so it should come off like nothing next time. You know, if we have to end up replacing the windshield, they have to take all this stuff off just to get to the windshield. Now if you remember at the beginning, we marked the wiper, so should be able to line it up with that little dot. Look good. Don't forget those little trim caps. Okay, so here's that back edge all finished and sealed up. It came out looking pretty nice. Now I was thinking if you could peel back this seal a little bit and get some sealant in there, you could do that as well. And then I did some further reading, and apparently there's actually a channel inside of this seal that's supposed to let water out if it gets inside here. And what you can do is you can get some stiff string line that you would use for like a weed whacker, and you can push it down here and clean out all this channel. And then at the bottom right here, there's a little bit of a weep hole right here that the water's supposed to leak out of, but I don't think it should hurt anything sealing it up like I did. Put the interior all back together and retested it. No more leaks. That's awesome. And the front windshield turned out nice. I didn't end up putting that top trim piece back, but you can't even see it. The black just matches up nice. And most importantly, there is no more leaks. So hopefully you guys found something in this video helpful. If you did, give it a thumbs up for me. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those down below and I'll get back to you. And if you're new to the channel, if you could subscribe and click the notification bell, that really helps me out. Thanks for watching Johnny DIY. Keep on doing it yourself, guys. Take care.